Okay, my faithful ballers, this video took a while to make because, quite honestly, I was working on my artwork. If you guys are gonna see a lot of new artwork and even some comic dubs on this channel pretty soon. So I'm busy working on that. Hopefully I can get it done by the end of the year, you know what I mean? But anyway, back to what we're discussing on this channel. I remember in part 2 when I said I was going to make a second part to the Saiyan, why being a Saiyan would actually be grand. Part 1, this is part 2, talking about the science of ki. Now before we even get into the video, I want to just put some little notes in here right now, and we're just going to show, the validity of the studies that I found. Okay, so first thing to knock off is the placebo effect. Now, I looked up the placebo effect, and it's a pretty notable thing in the scientific community, which is why I can say with confidence that what the studies I am presenting are not based off of the placebo effect. In fact, these are based off of actual studies that have been done and tested and have been shown to have effects that are far outside of what the placebo effect has been stated to be. And you'll see what I mean when I get into it. But notably, the Qigong methods and Qi in general has been shown to reduce the effects of aging, anxiety, pain, muscle tension, as well as has even been shown to have an effect on killing cancer cells. It's even been shown to have healing properties on people with scientific equipment even picking it up. It has a cause and an effect on an outside environment that is not just within the user's mind, which is what a placebo effect is. It also has short and long-term benefits, whereas the placebo effect usually wears off after a little while. The benefits of Qigong stay. And then we're gonna get into and also, as I'm about to show you, these are actual studies that have been done, and these are actual scientific studies that have been done, documented, conducted, and follow the scientific method. The scientific method is as follows. 1. You make an observation. 2. Form a hypothesis based on that observation. 3. You research and do meta-analysis on what you want to do. 4. Test that hypothesis. 5. Record the test of that hypothesis. And 6. You then let that test that you just did, be open to scrutiny and critical reviews. Every single last one of these studies that I'm showing you has done that. In fact, the most important ones that I have actually do come from government websites themselves. And you know that those are going to be the ones that are going to be the most strict about the rules that I just set before you. And also, I'm well aware of the other stipulations covering these, such as hypnosis, parapsychology, and some type of supernatural origin. However, these studies that I have into the extra nth degree to make sure none of that was present, and they got rid of any supernatural you could think of within them. Even going out of the way to actively blindfold people to get rid of the hypnosis effect. This effect, and randomizing the studies to get rid of any type of planned reactions, because they knew just how flimsy the human mind could be when thinking something might be happening. So this is what I mean when I say this is not a placebo effect, because they actually planned around those types of hurdles of the human mind, and even addressed them in the study as well. So yeah, they planned around those types of things. Those things, which pseudoscience would not have done. The fact that it follows the scientific method at all, instead of just skipping the steps and saying it's true because of this, they didn't do that. They actually researched it and then found that there was something there worth studying. And not just these studies as well. There's also other studies that do go hand in hand with what what I'm going to show here, but I'll get into that when we get into like the notes that I took. But now we're just going on to the briefing about the validity of them. And also, yes, I know that you have seen certain key masters with their no-touch martial arts nonsense. And I'm not defending that stuff. That stuff is nonsensical, and they're not masters in any shape of the word. So how can I say that what I'm about to show you has validity and that this doesn't? Well, allow me to explain. Imagine that someone has a car that they want to sell you, but it's a really crappy car. Does that mean that all car salesmen are con men? No. Imagine that I'm telling you something about how the earth is flat, and I'm using some conflated mumbo jumbo to try to explain it to you. Does that mean that the pseudoscience that I just showed you about the earth being flat means it's flat? No. In fact, you don't even need science to figure that out. You can literally just look at history and find out that ancient people realized the earth was round thousands of years ago. It's a literal historical landmark, and that's just a scientifically valid fact. And then if we go even further, there's also the fact that there's always going to be fake martial artists out there that are going to put shame on what actual tried and tested methods have been showing. But that doesn't make those martial arts any less effective when actually done properly, or done by the right people and actually taught consistently. So these no-cut key martial artists are frauds, but it does not mean that key itself is fake. You can have a real concept and just have fake people trying to make bank off of it by a bunch of suckers that are willing to give them money for it. It's also another example I just thought of. It's kind of like those gurus that try to get you to buy their get-rich-quick schemes. Like, you can make this much money in a month just by, paying for my course, and it's half off. I'm pretty sure a lot of you would know people like that. But even though there are tried and tested methods on how to make a lot of money in a short amount of time, and by short I mean possibly several months, if not a few years time, a decade at most for most of them. So yes, the methods themselves can work, but the people doing them can just be doing them poorly or just have no knowledge of what they're doing at all. But even with all of this, Ki is not even meant for attack. Ki was meant to do more so to heal and strengthen the body, the mind and the spirit. It's primarily used for mostly defense instead of offense, which is kind of interesting because in one of the Dragon Ball sponsored books in the description below that I'm going to show you guys, that actually is how it was mentioned, more so for defense than attack, to heal rather than destroy. And there's various scientific evidence to back that up as well. So I think I've pretty much gone over how these tests and studies are, where they've got them from, and how they are valid for what I'm about to say. And also to imagine that I did all this just to show how being a Saiyan in real life, you could easily manipulate this. Now, a bunch of you might be wondering, it's not going to be as cool as if we were actually in the world of Dragon Ball Z itself. And whereas you might have a point there, I could even argue that maybe doing what I'm about to show you guys would even be much cooler, but that's up to your interpretation. So now that I've covered this, and now that we can get into this, the next part of, and I'm probably butchering the title because I haven't really looked at the video, but I'll just try to say the title one more time, and if I get it wrong, you guys can post me in the comments. Why Being a Saiyan is Actually Grand Part 2, The Science of Ki, or should I, and for those extra nerds out there, you could just maybe call this groundbreaking science. Okay, now with that debriefing out the way, let's get into part 2 of why being a Saiyan is actually grand. And we're going to be starting this one off, of course, with the key and energy manipulation aspects. Okay, so what is ki? Well, in the studies that I read about it, ki technically doesn't really have a clear definition, is what I would say, but most of the studies that I did find seem to just put it down to electromagnetism, which makes and considering that there actually is a confirmed energy field of light, ultra weak violet light, or just ultra weak light around the human body that is actually created by all living things via. Well, I'm gonna put the links in the description so you guys can get into the nitty gritty of it. The article is on one of the top articles are not that long. In fact, they're only about 2 paragraphs. You guys can read along with that while listening. But either way, ultra weak light radiating outside of most living things, including man, and since ki has been shown to produce things like infrared laser beams, again, ultra weak infrared laser beams, you guys could look at that. Actually it would make sense that it would be that field would be being capable of being controlled, by ki. It's also interesting because photon therapy, I hope I'm getting that name right, is actually being used to treat certain neurological illnesses and even neurological defects as well, meaning that they're actually looking into a form of energy healing, not just recently, but since the 2002 apparently, which is even more interesting considering some of these key studies I found go back to about 1980s, and they're still going strong today with even more evidence backing them up. Now, granted, most of it is still in development and some of it is nowhere near as fleshed out as it could be. However, we still have a lot to work with here. And I'm also not an expert on any of this. I just literally looked all of this stuff up in the manner of 3 weeks. And if I'm going to be honest, I read the important parts of it, and I did read most of the studies as well, but I really didn't need to read all of them mostly really to get the gist of what was happening. Mostly because I studied ki when I was younger too. I did a lot of things like the Wim Hof breathing method, as well as Tai Chi, Qigong, and stuff like that. So I actually do have some experience with it. I haven't kept up training, unfortunately, so I turned into Gohan for a bit. But anyway, getting back on topic, yes. So basically the ultra weak light radiation around the man can be manipulated and has been shown to be done so by utilizing both scientific tools as well as with ki manipulation. So what can ki do in all reality? Well, in Dragon Ball Z, ki has been shown to allow you to basically do superhuman feats. And if the Shaolin monks are any indication, then these superhuman feats could most likely be replicated. In fact, they couldn't be replicated because those have been shown to not only be doable, but they have been scientifically measured and proven to exist, and even be more than doable. I'll include a video of studying Shaolin monks that I saw a while ago if I can find it, but seriously, these guys are literally superhuman. The only limit is your mind, and that goes to double for these guys. So yeah, you guys can look into doing some pretty interesting stuff with just their training alone, and that's just human training, and that's just utilizing ki at the surface level. But normally ki is more so used to basically gain things like enhanced health, enhanced well-being and vitality, and enhanced quality of life. So what's the abilities you guys could be looking at when you gain a control of ki like a Saiyan has? Well, let me put it in the example for you. With the Nincio breathing method, I'm probably butchering that name, but no. With that method, it's been shown to basically heal body parts. And it took about 7 minutes or so for it to heal a sprained finger. Now, I know that doesn't sound like much, especially considering such a small body part, and it took around 45 minutes to heal a leg injury. Now, that doesn't sound like much, and it sounds like it would take too long, but considering that normally these things take days, if not weeks or months to heal properly, that's not so long. And also considering the other factor of matter is that, remember, as a Saiyan, you would be capable of doing vastly more than that in less time, because it took these guys decades to get this good at what they do, even though in the studies they had some students that could be sensitive to ki in less than 10 weeks. You guys would literally be able to sense it in less than a few minutes. Because remember, Goku learned the Kamehameha in less than 50 seconds, and it took closely 50 years to master it, and he's the one who invented the technique. Now imagine seeing somebody utilizing the healing effects of Qigong, or just going through the motions and being capable of manipulating your own electromagnetic field around your body that effortlessly. So what would you be capable of doing with that? Well, from what I've seen, normally you would be capable of having supernatural health. You would basically be able to manipulate light energy, which will give you a whole host of abilities, electromagnetic manipulation as well, and really that would be, self-magnetic manipulation. I don't know how good you would need to be able to manipulate electromagnetism around you in a space, but considering that your thoughts have been shown to affect this energy field that exists around you, it would probably be to a more personal effect. But yeah, and also you guys would technically be capable of shooting lasers with the Saiyan proficiency, definitely. So yeah, Kamehamehas would more than likely be a thing that could be done. Probably wouldn't. Now, I'm not sure it would be as big or as powerful, but yeah, you could do it. And then there's also the fact that you would be pretty much immune to diseases as well, because your field around you would heal you inside and the inside, and also the outside. It would just keep all the viruses away. And of course, you could heal others, as mentioned before, and also you would be able to have further enhanced senses. Basically, everything about your already superhuman physiology would be enhanced to even further supernatural levels. You would also be capable of lifting things up with magnetism, and even sensing the electromagnetic pulses in the air, which would include thought waves of other human beings. So a form of telepathy as well due to your heightened abilities, and then you would also of course be capable of ki sensing. Now, in traditional terms, ki is told to be life energy, and it's clear to see why, considering all living and even some inanimate objects have it. Now, I know I'm abridging a lot here, but that's because there's a lot to go through. Really, I'm just kind of getting this video out to bring more attention to this, because I found it interesting in the talk of why being a Saiyan would actually be grand. Most people think it would. I mostly made this video because people just kept downplaying Saiyans in general, saying that, the powers would be useless in real life, or that, you wouldn't really be able to do much. And then I basically did all this just to prove a point that, yes, being a Saiyan in real life would actually be very useful and very beneficial to mankind, or Saiyan kind, give or take. And also further going into the electromagnetic radiation stuff, I actually have some powerlifting things explaining the abilities you would have, but it really depends on mastery. Imagine being capable of manipulating matter down to the quantum level, level with just enough practice, and you could basically do that. That literally you would be a masters of the universe in less than a couple of years of having these abilities. Which you would quickly learn to master too, because, you know, basically accelerated development and instant learning capabilities. And then there's also the fact that there's also the other added benefit bonus of, let's see, what's another aspect you could do with that? Of possibly being capable of generating wormholes with electromagnetism. Because remember, electromagnetism is one of the 4 fundamental forces of the universe. You guys would already be pretty OP just with this ability alone. It already grants so much. And everything, light manipulation is just being an umbrella version, and that's already overpowered. So basically, with key manipulation, you're saying theology added, you guys would be absolute masters of life. And I think I'm gonna probably end the video here because I hope you guys liked it, you enjoyed it. If you have anything you want me to further elaborate on in the comments, just ask, or you can talk about it on Discord. But honestly, I really just enjoyed making this video series. Wasn't that long, and it took me a while because, again, I was more focused on my artwork. You guys are going to be seeing some interesting comic dubs pretty soon. And by soon, I mean hopefully in the next month, if I can get my mind wrapped around what I gotta set myself out to do. So, yeah. But anyway, this has just kind of been an interesting talk. It's really good to get into stuff that people normally don't expect or don't really think about, and it really just makes you wonder what's really possible. So, and honestly, I believe it was said, and I believe I heard this from a psychological game I was playing just today. Hey, sometimes it takes fiction to see the truths in reality, or something like that. Which is kind of interesting because fiction mostly comes from reality, and we realize that reality is at times stranger than fiction itself could ever be. So I think that's a good quote to end it off on, even though I was mostly just rambling my ass off for the last, let's see, 12 minutes. Oh wait, no, not 12 minutes. I'm recording this on something else. For the last 22 minutes, I'm guessing. Wow, this is already almost as long as the first video. So anyway, for some closing thoughts, I think I'm gonna end off with this epic IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic I've been reading. Check the people who dubbed it in the description. But I think this part perfectly encapsulates exactly how the mindset I had when I was making this video, and the mindset I think most should approach life with. So enjoy this talk between Donatello and the good doctor here.
Well, I don't know about invented, but I suppose I did play a part in your existence.
If you ask my father, he'd say it was all fate and destiny. He claims we were reincarnated from feudal Japan. Now that's crazy.
Perhaps, or perhaps not.
Huh?
Do you know how our teleportation device works, Donatello? Elements are scanned down to the atomic level. Then, that information is transmitted to the receiving location and used to construct replicas. Not from the actual material of the originals, but from atoms of the same kind, arranged in exactly the same pattern as the originals. The originals, of course, are destroyed during the scanning process.
So, it's like we were copied and pasted here, while our originals were deleted?
Excellent summary, Donatello. Though, like my own explanation, it only describes the science of it all. The calculations we use to gauge muscle mass, genetic makeup, cellular formation and reformation, etc. But nowhere in those complicated equations do we take into account the essence of the individual. The soul, if you will. Really, it's such a magnificent mystery. How could we? And yet, the very thing that makes a being who they truly are, their soul, survives a teleportation trip every single time. Intangible, yet intact. Or consider myself for that matter. Externally, I'm a synthetic construct. But internally, I am who I have always been. Honeycut, neutrino by birth, professor by trade. husband and father in my heart. I wonder if our true essences, of their own volition, are able to make the journey across dimensions via technology. Why not across space and time via reincarnation as well?
But what about proof, Professor? There's no way to test it. No empirical evidence. You're just supposed to believe it?
Yes, you are right. There is no scientific proof that is possible, but there is also no definitive proof that it is not. So, rejecting the possibility without earnest consideration, perhaps that is what could be truly crazy.